it be? You seek to end the root. Has the hour come? They will come for us.
Hey everyone, Munchie here. A quick little disclaimer before we start. I'm going to try my best to keep my biases in check because Remnant from the Ashes has been one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely loved everything about it, but it wasn't without faults. From what we have seen from the trailers and short gameplay teasers, Remnant 2 will fundamentally be a very similar game to the first title. I'm going to do something a little bit differently than most buyer's guides for this video, as there's tons of coverage on Remnant 2 already and by way better content creators. For the first half of the video, I want to compare Remnant to other popular games that have been universally well received and share similarities in gameplay, feel, and theme. For the second half of the video, I want to address what people disliked about the first game and see if Gunfire Games has listened to that feedback from Remnant 2 in hopes of recapturing an audience that was left wanting more. It's not a surprise that many of us immediately think of the Souls games when it comes to Remnant's gameplay and theme. Though I may agree with that impression during the earlier parts of Remnant, I don't feel like that's necessarily true for the entire experience. But if you are a fan of the Souls-like genre, there are reasons as to why you may find some enjoyment in the similarities and differences between the two. I think before we make any comparisons though, we should try to define exactly what a Souls-like game is, and what better way than to search Reddit for the truest and most accurate definition of the term. According to this top-rated comment on a post on our game design, Eggplant Cider believes a Souls-like should check off a few boxes. A recharging stamina bar, emphasis on dodging, a bonfire checkpoint system, a healing item that is replenished at bonfires, and an interconnected world that involves boss fights. I don't really want to get too deep into what a Souls game truly is and if Remnant is even a Souls game or not. Both games share a lot of the same mechanics, but I think the difficulty of each game is what sets them apart. Remnant and the Souls series can both be very difficult, but in their own way. Where Remnant tends to have more open areas with lots of enemies, Souls games tend to stick you into claustrophobic positions where tight corridors can see you slamming your sword against the wall. Enemies in the Souls series have varying attacks and timings to throw the player off, forcing them to play more cautiously as they learn the patterns. In my personal experience, I felt that even a random enemy out in the world posed a real threat, whereas in the first Remnant game, I was only cautious around the elite mobs that would randomly spawn a lot like Vermintide or Left 4 Dead. Remnant and the Souls series also center themselves around big boss battles, but we'll talk about that in the second half of the video, as boss battles from Remnant from the Ashes were very controversial and Gunfire Games seems to have listened to the community and has made some adjustments for Remnant 2. I think the comparison of Remnant and the Souls series has actually been overdone at this point, but I wanted to share my surface level opinion. Remnant can be a bit more forgiving than the Souls series during certain encounters, yet it's still very challenging and exciting. For those who love co-op games, Remnant 2 will offer an experience like no other. I spent countless of hours with my friends on Remnant, and some of my favorite memories were those which one of us would fall in battle and our last man standing would pull off a clutch revive or the final hit on a boss that we've been attempting for hours. Finding upgrades and building our character to support each other's strengths and weaknesses reminded me of many other games with a similar experience. If you're a fan of Borderlands, The Division, Outriders, which was a huge letdown by the way, I think you're going to feel right at home with this series. I do believe that Remnant 2 will actually offer deeper character customization and RPG elements than any of those games that I mentioned. This is definitely going to be one of those games that keeps you locked in your room all day and night, sharing beers with your friends online, and obviously no one's going to show up for work on release day. Gunfire Games is truly making a game for gamers. I did mention that Remnant 1 was not a perfect game. I took a survey of the negative reviews on Steam to see what the community disliked the most about the game, and to compare it to the news and updates that we have for Remnant 2. This section of the video is more so for those who have played Remnant 1 but didn't enjoy it, or for those who were turned off by some of the complaints they read online. The first and most prominent complaint that I read was the boss design. As I mentioned before, the difficulty curve of the Remnant series revolves around the high volume of enemies, and this was especially true during boss fights. The difficulty was definitely padded around every boss having an ad phase, all while the boss continues to chase you down or shoot you from a distance. It can be terribly frustrating, especially if you don't have a build to handle it. I think this is a totally valid point, although I absolutely love the challenge, and it kind of felt like a bullet hell that always brought me to the edge of my seat. Gunfire Games has listened though, and they have changed their boss design to be more focused on 1 or 2 enemies rather than a ton of fodder. If the boss mechanics and environments play out the way we all hope, it's going to be an awesome experience, so this is definitely a huge change and may bring back a lot of players back into the series. The second major complaint was the lack of exploration and bland level design. Already from the trailers and previews, the world in Remnant 2 looks so much more alive. They've been able to create an atmosphere that was definitely lacking in the first game. There have been dev interviews stating that the map generation will be much more robust this time around with unique nodes and explorable paths full of hidden secrets and rewards. The series encourages multiple playthroughs, so this new world will definitely make that second and third playthrough that much more enjoyable, as you will most likely run into secrets that you didn't find before. The story was also something that the community felt was lacking. The NPCs that you encountered didn't have much personality to them, and War 13 was pretty bland in my opinion. The city has been rebuilt in Remnant 2, and I'm really hoping for a bit more character development and world building this time around. I don't expect JRPG levels worth of storytelling and lore, but a bit more about the events happening around you would definitely be welcomed here. This is gonna be for those looking for an intense action-adventure game with punishing enemies, tons of replayability with dynamic and procedural maps on every playthrough, loads of customization options by mixing and matching different archetypes, weapon sets, abilities, and epic boss fights that you can do solo or in co-op. I'm even running out of breath here just talking about all the possibilities that you can do in this game. You'll even be able to play every single archetype and reroll maps on the same character and get all the different quest lines and rewards. Dude, it's gonna be so good. Remnant 2 is definitely something you don't want to miss. I even recommend playing the first one if the boss design thing isn't really an issue for you. Or you can even watch some playthroughs online and catch up on the lore.
Oh my god. Alright, I'm done.
Okay, maybe not that one, but you can probably watch some other videos. I can't wait to create insane builds and complete another deathless run of the game on the hardest difficulty just like I did the first one, but I have a feeling Remnant 2 will be an experience like no other game will ever match. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's keep in touch and take care.